Good afternoon to all the participants. So this is a 5-day faculty development program conducted by NIT. Today's session this is the second session of the second day, and the topic on which we'll be talking for the next 1.5 hours is four orders in nature and need for definite human conduct. So briefly, I am basically an electronics engineer with post-graduation in computer sciences. Most of you are academicians and faculties of higher educational institutions. So I do not come from academic background, but just like all of you, I am also a human being, and we all want to live fulfilling lives. So in that connection, we have been exploring this philosophy, which is being taught in many IITs and other higher educational institutions in the country, and overseas also in some countries. So we'll be talking about this topic today: four orders in nature and need for definite human conduct. Now, the whole content, as you can see on the right hand side top, is based on coexistential philosophy. And this is a proposal based philosophy. Whatever we will be talking about here, whatever is presented here in this session and in all the 5 days faculty development program, please take everything that is presented as a proposal. And when we say it's a proposal, we encourage you to verify each proposal yourself in your right as a human being. Like, it's not a preaching exercise. It's not something that we say that it is true and it has to be accepted as the truth. The best part of this philosophy is that this can be verified in our living by all of us. And like, as we go forward, we'll see how it goes. So one thing which I am saying again as a proposal is that all of us live at four levels. There are basically four levels of our or humans living. We live at the level of self, we live at the level of family, we live at the level of society and with nature. And if we reflect on it, what we are saying here is that we means all of us want to live harmoniously at all these four levels. Like, we all have some aspirations. We want to have a career growth, we want to have a good house, we want to have good relationships. So all these aspirations, and we have our own likes and dislikes. So all these aspirations, we are saying, is living at the level of self. Then we live in relationships. We want harmony in relationships. घर में लड़ाई झगड़ा होता है, संबंधों में तनाव रहता है, तो हमें अच्छा नहीं लगता. वो जो अच्छा नहीं लगता, that is disharmony. And living harmoniously is what we like. Society में, like, we want to have fearlessness. We want to live trust with all the human beings. We do not want that people should exploit us. We do not want wars. So we want to live at harmonious level. We want to live harmoniously at the level of society, and with nature also we want to live harmoniously. We do not want pollution. We do not want global warming. So what we are seeing here is that like yesterday, the sessions, I was hearing when Pradeep ji was taking session, he gave a proposal. All of us want to live happily. So this living with happiness cannot be achieved if any of these four levels, four aspects of our living, there is disharmony in that. There has to be harmony in all these four levels. Only then we get a sense of happiness, a feeling of happiness. Now, another thing we can say here is that this desire is universal. Like I was told by Yogesh ji, that in all these sessions, almost 400 faculty members are participating live. Now, these 400 participants, they must be coming from all the diverse religions. They must be of, like, they could be males, they will be females, they will be of different age brackets. There will be 30-year-olds, there will be 60-year-olds. But when we are saying that that all these at all these four levels we want to live harmoniously. All 400 of you and everyone else who is watching this recording later on, they can verify in their own right that yes, we want to live harmoniously at all these four levels. So universal means that the proposal does not depend on time. The proposal does, time means like it is true today, it was true 2000 years ago also, it will be true 2000 years later. That is universal. It does not depend on place. It is true in India, it is true in USA, it is true in Africa. So all human beings always want to live harmoniously at all four levels. It does not depend on individual. It is not true only for me. It is true for all of you. It is true for everyone. So in that context, the name of this FDP is Universal Human Values. So the universal part, we have to be very clear in our mind. What do we exactly mean by universal? Universal is something which does not depend on time, which does not depend on place, which does not depend on person. This is universal. So all of us want to live harmoniously at these four levels. When we are not living harmoniously, these are problems which we face. I'm not going to read out all of them, but like I'll just skip through them. Like at self, we have internal conflicts, directionlessness, loneliness. At the level of family, we have breaking family, we have generation gaps. At the level of society, we have wars, terrorism, corruption, and in the level of nature, we have pollution, global warming, resource depletion, and these kind of things. So these are the problems we are facing because there is disharmony at these levels. So we want to live harmoniously. This whole FDP, this workshop for 5 days, and then the whole philosophy, this shows us the way how to achieve that. So in these four levels, at the level of self, family, and society, how we achieve harmony, that will be covered by other sessions by my colleagues and friends. In this session, we'll be focusing on the fourth bullet point, harmony in nature. That is the focus and topic of this session. So let's proceed. Let us do a small exercise. Let us see that whatever we see around us, we are proposing here, and you please verify in your own right. Whatever we see around us, that can be divided into 4 categories or orders. In Hindi, we call it avasthaएं. So we have material order around us, we have plants order, we have animal order, and we have human order, which we also call knowledge order. Why we call it knowledge order, we'll see in a few moments. Their respective Hindi names are also written in brackets. So what do we mean by this categorization? Let us look at some examples. In material order, what are the examples? Like stones, metals, soil, mountains, air, rivers, moon, not only moon, but all the other planets and other heavenly bodies which we see, like galaxies. And most of the things which we use in our day-to-day life, which are man-made, but they belong to material order, like laptop, mobile, our house, our cars, TV, pen, all these things, they are examples of material order. Which is the second order? The second order is plants order. What are its examples? Trees, grass, plants, fruits, flowers. The third order is the animal order, and what are its examples? They will be like animals, birds, fish. And the fourth order is human order. Now, what do we have in human order? We only have human beings in human order. So this is from where we started, that whatever we see around us can be divided in these 4 categories or 4 orders or 4 avasthaएं. I'm showing this slide again so that it is re-emphasized, and we gradually have to get familiar with this terminology. And please verify that whatever we see around us is falling in one of these four orders. We will not find anything which is not belonging to any of these four orders. Okay, so this is something which you please verify. As we said, we encourage you to verify all the proposals within yourself. Now, why are we putting human beings in a different order than animals? You know, normally speaking, many times we hear around us that man is a social animal. I mean, we teach it in classrooms also. So there's an impression which goes around that human beings and animals, they are very much similar to each other. So we'll try to precisely see what is the difference between human beings and animals. So the answer to this question, which we are saying, which is given by the coexistential philosophy, is it is only the human beings who can study and understand themselves and everything else too. Okay, animals do not have this capacity. Like we are exploring solar systems. We do not see animals doing that. Okay. We want to know how many people are living on this earth. We do not see animals doing any kind of these population surveys. So we want to know everything. Animals do not have that capacity. So to that willingness, the desire, and the potential to know everything. Okay. So in Hindi we call it Gyan. So because of that, we are calling the humans. We are putting the humans here in Gyan Avastha or knowledge order. Okay. Another thing which we can see here is that in animals, the activities and living in each generation is similar to the previous generation. In human beings, the differences from generation to generation, they are clearly visible. I mean, for example, in our generation, we are using mobile phones. Our previous generation, our parents' generation, they did not have mobile phones. Till 6 or 8 generations ago, we did not have electricity. But till 10 generations ago, till 200 years ago, we did not have cars. So when we study history in classrooms, we know there was a Stone Age many thousands of years ago. Then we had Metal Age, and then we had Industrialization Age. So what we are seeing is over thousands of years ago, clearly the human beings living is there is changing, and that change is like the desire is for betterment. So that desire is there, and in that desire we are able to achieve something also. In birds and animals, this characteristic is distinctly not available. I mean, our houses today are much better than what they were 100 years ago. A bird, when it makes its nest on a tree, the way it makes it today is similar to what the way the bird was making its nest thousands of years ago. So the way we have made our 2 BHK houses, 3 BHK houses, the birds' nests or other habitat of the animals, they have not developed in a similar manner. I mean, if we look at it from that context. So this is, this is why we are saying human beings are in knowledge order, Gyanavastha. We have potential to understand everything. Okay. As we go along, we'll see that we have not yet utilized that potential. We have not channelized it rightly, but all the same, that potential exists. That makes us different from the animal order. Going further, and while we go further, I'll coordinate with Yogesh ji. Also, Yogesh ji, as you told me earlier that what we'll do is, this is a 1.5 hour session. So midway through, sometimes we'll have an intermediate question answer session, and we'll have a final question answer session towards the end of the session, in the last 10-15 minutes, right? So good. So we'll have so let me go along with the flow, and we'll see in 30-40 minutes. Midway through this session, we'll have first set of questions. So we'll have one small question answer session in between. Good. So let us look at the interdependencies of these four orders. Why are we studying them? Where it is leading? Okay, so for that we'll see that this material order, does it do something for the other three orders? Is it useful to the other three orders? So if we raise this question, we can clearly see that yes, material order is useful to the plants order, as we see on the right hand side here. How it is useful to the plants order? It provides soil, it provides air, it provides water, it provides all the other minerals and nutrients which plants need. Plants get all that from the soil only. So soil is useful to the plants order. Soil, not only soil, but the overall material order like water and air also. Is the material order useful to the animal order? Yes, again, to the animal orders, we can clearly see that they need water, they need air, and they need to move around. So animals move on earth only. If this material was not there, if this earth was not there, it was not possible for animals to move. Is material order useful to human order? Again, we can see very clearly, yes, it is useful to the human orders also. As we saw earlier, we like water, air, medium for movement we need, and then for many or almost everything that we need on our day-to-day basis in the physical sense, it comes from the material order. We get material for our houses from the material order. We get material for our laptops and mobiles from the material order. So material order is useful to the humans. So in this slide, what we are highlighting is that material order is useful to plants order, it is useful to animal order, and it is useful to human order, and it is playing out its usefulness beautifully. It is not denying us anything. If we go to the next slide now, let us see whether plants order is being useful to the other three order. So again, we see that when the plants order decays, it decays to oil, it decays to coal, and it enriches the soil. Okay, so the plants order, after plants die, the soil is enriched. In that sense, we can say that the plants order is useful to the material order, and we can very easily see the the coexistence between material order and plants order here. Material order provides nourishment, the minerals, the nutrients to the plants order, and plants order and plants and trees, after they die down, they enrich the soil. So they are mutually enriching. It's, you know, like if we look at it, we are able to appreciate the beautiful design of nature, that these two orders are mutually enriching. Okay, so taking the discussion further, we can very clearly see that the same mutual enrichment and the usefulness we can see from plants order to animal order and plants order to the human order also. Okay, like plants provide food to the animal order, plants provide food to the human order, and they provide us wood for furniture, they provide cotton for our clothes, and you know, like, I mean, the list can go on endless. We teach this to our children in schools itself, but there's a purpose for which we are refreshing it. Just we'll spend 5-10 minutes more on this, and then we'll straight away come to the point of our discussion. This foundation is required before we can take our discussion further. So we have seen in the previous slide the usefulness of material order for other three orders. In this slide, we saw usefulness of plants order for the other three orders. And in the next slide, we are highlighting the usefulness of the animal order for the other three orders. I'll not read out whatever is written here, but we know from our school days that these three orders, material order, plant order, animal order, they have a, they have a good cyclic process which is existing naturally. We have heard about or studied about the carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, food cycle, all those things. So these things are happening very beautifully in the first three orders. So summary of the first three slides is, we can see that all these three orders are mutually fulfilling and complementary among themselves as well as to the human order. They coexist. No order denies the other order. Every order tries its best to fulfill the needs of the other order. Okay, this is for the first three orders. Now let us see the usefulness of the human order for the other three orders. Okay, how is human order being useful to material order? How is human order being useful to plants order? And how the human order is being useful to the animals order? So we have like put big question marks here, because suddenly we realize that while we are getting everything from these three orders, when it comes what the human order is doing for these three orders, actually that becomes a big question mark. It is really questionable. What are we doing? Are we doing something to enrich these three orders as these three orders are doing, or we are sort of exploiting it and causing disturbance? So I have highlighted some points on the left hand corner box here in this slide. Like, we have heard about most of these things: resource depletion, pollution, species extinction, global warming, deforestation, reducing water levels. All these things are being caused by human order. That is very clearly visible. Animal order is not causing global warming. Plants order is not causing global warming. Who is causing global warming? Human order is causing global warming. Who is calling pollution? Human order is calling pollution. Like mankind and animals, they have been on this earth for hundreds of thousands and millions of years ago. Water shortage has not been there. In our generation, this is very clearly visible to all of us. We can reflect on this, all the participants here, that in our childhood days we never heard of water shortage. But by the time now we are in 21st century, we are hearing from scientists and let's say learned people that if there will be a third world war on this earth, it will be because of fresh water. But the third world war, the basis will be fresh water, drinking water. So have we come to a stage where we are looking at a world war because of shortage of water? Who is causing this? When we look at these four orders, again, the answer is human order is causing this. I don't know how many of you are aware, but there's a train runs in our country from somewhere in Punjab to Bikaner in Rajasthan. The name of that train is Cancer Express. Now, railways did not name it Cancer Express. Railways have some other standard passenger express name, whatever they have, I don't know. But popularly, it is known in the media and in public domain when people call it Cancer Express. Why they call it Cancer Express? Because in certain districts of Punjab, in the last 30, 40, 50 years, because of increasing use of chemicals and fertilizers for agriculture, the soil has become so poisonous, the food has become so poisonous that the cases of cancer have grown many fold in Punjab, in certain districts. And there's a very good government cancer hospital in Bikaner. So when all these people in Punjab, they are getting cancer, they take this train which connects to Bikaner, and by overnight journey, they reach Bikaner for treatment. So the train is every day full of cancer patients. So that is why popularly it is known as Cancer Express. Runs between Bikaner and somewhere in Punjab. You can do Google search on this. Please verify it yourself. What is the point we are trying to derive here? Punjab has been historically known since ages for its fertile land. And history has shown that many intruders and enemies have attacked our country, so that they could lay hands on this land and control it, which is very fertile. Now, what have we done in the last 30, 40, 50 years? We have made the land, the soil, the water, the food so poisonous that we have to run trains which are now popularly known as Cancer Express. Is this contribution or usefulness of human order to the other orders, or is it a gyan? Is it nasamji? Is it galti of human order? So human order, which we called as Jnanavastha in the beginning, I'll just try to see the Hindi name again. So the human order, whom we called Jnanavastha, they have the potential to understand everything, and then having this huge potential, it is a natural expectation that we should be able to live also in a good manner, but somehow that is not happening. Okay, that is what we are trying to highlight here. The other three orders, they are mutually complementary, mutually fulfilling, mutually useful. Human order is causing all the disturbance, all these issues which we are facing. So in this first 25 minutes of this session, what we have done is to try to highlight that who is the culprit on this earth. Okay, we have problem on this earth. Let us try everything around us and see in which categories we can categorize everything. We saw we can categorize in material order, plants order, animal order, and human order. Now we have seen in the last few minutes, there is no problem with the other three orders. Okay, all the problems, they are being caused by humans. And humans actually are the, what should we say? Next question, which order appears to be most developed of these four orders? Okay, like making a comparison with animals. I touched upon it, but we can just again talk about it. Human beings have made medicines, hospitals in the previous, in over many thousands of years, gradually. What about animals? They have not been able to do that. We do not see any tendency in them to make hospitals or medicines. Human beings have made bridges, boats to cross rivers. What about animals? See, I am fond of watching this National Geographic channel on TV, and many times I have seen there, you also might have seen, when they show from Africa, like there are big herds of zebra who once or twice a year cross rivers to go to the other side of the river, and in large numbers, in tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, and in those rivers crocodiles are living. It has been going on for, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years ago, millions of years ago. It has been going on, and it's going on today also. The zebras cross that river, and crocodiles catch those zebras, some of them, a few thousands of them. But zebras never thought that we can make bridges on this river so that we are safe from the crocodiles. I mean, I'm sure in history, early human beings also must have realized that crocodiles eat them. Humans also might have needed to cross rivers, and then they realized that it's not good that crocodiles attack us. So human beings use their imagination, their creativity, their potential to understand things, to make bridges, to make boats, to cross rivers. Animals have not been able to do that. We have made better homes for our safety. Okay, so that we are safe from fire, from hot weather, from rainy weather, from winter. As we discussed earlier, animals live in similar kind of houses where they lived tens of thousands or millions of years ago. So if we look at from these angles, human order is clearly most developed order on this earth. And the question again to be asked is, why is the most developed order hell bent on destroying this earth? Why are these mistakes happening? These are the questions we have to address, and not only to address, but figure out a solution to them also. I'll skip these two slides. So I think, Yogesh ji, I mean, this is time that we have introduced these four terms, material order, plants order, animal order, human order, and we have looked at their interdependencies also and usefulness, and we have seen who the main culprit is. So have you got any questions so we can take them so far? Otherwise, we'll proceed further.
There is one question. Sir, how can we achieve right understanding?
Yeah, okay. So that will be covered in the next 1 hour. See, right understanding is not so easy to cover in 1 hour or one session. If it was so easy, mankind would have achieved that. But what we are going to do here is to share a glimpse with you how it can be achieved. It will be a long educational process, but in this 1 hour today, remaining 1 hour today, and in the next 3 days, my colleagues, all of us will try to share with you how it can be achieved. How, like, it's something which all of us want. All of us want to get rid of wars. All of us want to get rid of exploitation. All of us want to get rid of global warming. All of us want to live right. Mankind has been wanting to live right ever since mankind developed on this earth. In our parampara we call Vasudev Kutumbakam. Okay, United Nations also talks about world peace and ability to live together. So this desire, this aspiration, that has been there with us for a long time. Only thing is that ability to live together, we have collectively missed. So give me some time. I'll try to touch upon, as I was hearing Rajiv Sangal ji yesterday, he was mentioning in his introductory talk also, that in one session or in one FDP we cannot develop right understanding, samajh. But the only thing is, at least it helps us in showing the way. It helps us in developing our confidence that yes, it can be developed. Then we will continue our efforts beyond this session, beyond this FDP, and then those collective efforts will take us to that to realizing that potential which all of us collectively have, and our aspiration to live peacefully and harmoniously. So that's how I would like to address it. So if there are no more questions, Yogesh ji, should I proceed further? Okay, so I presume there are no more questions, so I'll proceed further. These two slides, I'm just leaving it here. You can read, because there is some more content to be covered. So in nature, what we see is, by nature, cyclicity, balance, enrichment, purification, usefulness and complementariness, and definite conduct, it is there. But human being, we are not able to do that. So we can elaborate on that, but for the time being, I just leave you with this thought. So let's come to the definite conduct. Now this is slide number 27. I'll come back to show the topic. The topic was 4 orders in nature and need for definite human conduct. Now definite human conduct, so we are talking about conduct now. We have completed the 4 orders in nature. And what do we mean by definite conduct? So what we are saying is, definite conduct, if we translate to Hindi, you can call it a Nishchit Acharan. So let's look at a few questions. Things of material order, do they have definite conduct or not a definite conduct? So we realize that yes, they have definite conduct in the sense that iron has a definite conduct, water has a definite conduct. We are able to make our all our steel products, all our utensils in the kitchen, and everything else uh, from iron, because iron has a definite conduct. It melts at a certain temperature always. After it melts, it shows a certain conduct, and if we give it a shape and then if we give it to leave it to sort of get cold, it remains in that shape. So in that sense, we are able to use things of material order because of their definite conduct. Okay. We have laptops and we have PCBs in these laptops and mobiles, and we use a lot of metal, sometimes even gold or aluminium or copper in our wiring and in our PCBs. We are able to use those PCBs and those metals on those PCBs and reliably use our laptops and mobiles because those PCBs and the copper and gold and silver and aluminium, they have definite conduct. Okay, so the basis of our ability to use material order is because the material order has a definite conduct. We are able to build our house and live confidently in them without getting worried that the house will fall down when our family is sleeping under it. Is we are not worried about that because we know that the material used in the building of the house has a definite conduct. Next question. Do things of the plant order have definite conduct or no definite conduct? So again, we are able to eat all our food without any worries because of the definite conduct of the food. When I eat an apple, I am not worried whether the apple will harm me or apple will provide me nourishment. Why? Because I trust the definite conduct of the apple. Okay, when we make a door in the house or a chair on which I am sitting from wood, we trust the definite conduct of the wood. What about the animal order? Things of animal order have definite conduct or not? So all those who have pets at home and those of us who do not have pets at home still have seen friends and people who have pets at home, and we know that mankind has been able to have pets at home or have farm animals like horse, goat, cows, buffaloes because of their definite conduct. If the animals did not depict this definite conduct, it would not have been possible for human beings to 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 have these pets and farm animals with us. Okay, and wherever we realize that like whatever their conduct is not conducive to be harmoniously living with us, to those animals we have not tried to make pets. Like we do not try to make lion and a lion or a tiger a pet because we know that its conduct is not amicable to be living with us. So in that sense, we are able to see the definite conduct of animals, and based on the definite conduct, we decide who will live with us or with whom we will be living and whom we will just keep away. So, so, so moral of the story or the takeaway from the first 3 points, the first 3 orders, material order, plants order, animal order, all the entities, all the units of these 3, they have definite conduct. We have been able to identify that definite conduct and then live with that definite conduct. Question, last question. Do humans have definite conduct? Okay. Again, the answer is No. All our worries or most of our worries in our day-to-day living from morning to evening is because we do not know how the other human being will behave when I meet. We go to our office or college or institution and we do not know how the boss will behave. Is the behavior of the boss definite or indefinite? कल उनका मूड अच्छा था, आज मूड खराब हो गया. And what about, and not only about office, do we identify that our family members, our children, our spouses, they have definite conduct? वाइफ का मूड सुबह कैसा था, हस्बैंड का मूड सुबह कैसा था, ठीक है, अभी बात करेंगे तो पता नहीं कैसा रिस्पॉन्स आएगा. वो रिस्पॉन्स कैसा आएगा, that indefiniteness, that uncertainty, that is what we are saying here, that the way, the confidence, the trust with which we are living with the other three orders, with the human beings living with that definite conduct is missing in our day-to-day life. Okay, we go to a shop, whether the shopkeeper will give us the pure thing, or will there be some milawat in that? Will it be adulterated? We do not know. Okay, and that causes worry in us. Okay, our children are taking cabs to go somewhere. Whether the cab driver will behave well or not, we do not know. Okay, so suddenly we realize, if we review our morning to evening life, this missing of this definite conduct of humans, this is causing major problems for us, and this is causing the problems to the rest of the earth also, to the other three orders also. So this definite conduct, Nishchit Acharan, this we will now explore in the next half an hour. What are we saying? Definite conduct gives us trust, makes us relaxed. हम निश्चिंत होते हैं, and that relaxation leads to a feeling which we are identifying as happiness. When I am relaxed, I am happy. Indefinite conduct causes stress in us. It causes worry in us. चिंता होती है. This we are identifying as dukh. Okay. So we are not able to plan our actions because we do not know how the other human being will respond or react. So in human beings, we can say that Manviya Acharan is equal to Nishchit Acharan. Human conduct is definite conduct. Okay, definite conduct for human beings does not mean robotic actions or uniform actions in a mechanical manner. This we'll see subsequently. It does not mean that all of us have to sort of just work like machines. Okay, this point will come later, so we just skip this point. But please do not feel that Nishchit Acharan will lead to a boring life. Okay, so I just wanted to reassure you here. Human conduct is, now we are on the bottom part of the slide. Human conduct is the conduct that is naturally acceptable to all human beings always. Okay, वो आचरण, मेरा वो आचरण जो सब मानवों को सदा स्वीकार हो, सभी मानवों को स्वीकार हो, उसी को मानवीय कहेंगे, जिसकी अपेक्षा सब मानव में सदा सदा एक समान हो, which every human being desires and looks forward to always, every human being. In that sense, the universal human, this humane conduct or the definite conduct, the Nishchit Acharan, this is universal. This can be called universal human conduct or सार्वभौम मानवीय आचरण. पूरी भूमि पर ये यूनिवर्सल होगा. सार्वभौम means पूरी भूमि पर, for all people at all times at all places. Okay, so the name of the FDP is Universal Human Values. Like I think there are certain basic points which we will always remember. I'll highlight on the first slide here. The name of the 5-day FDP is Universal Human Values, and in these 5 days, what what the focus of the organizers and us as facilitators is that all the participants should get a clarity, or at least some clarity, about what is universal, what is human, and what is values. So in this session today, we are repeatedly emphasizing on the universal part. So at least we clearly know what are we meaning by universal. In this session and in the next 3 days, we will develop our understanding of what a human being is and what values are, so that universal human values very clearly, we know what we are talking about. So I come back to the original slide where we were here, that so this nishchit acharan, or this is actually manviya acharan. Okay, so manviya acharan is nishchit acharan, and in that sense it can be called universal also, because every human being always expects manviya acharan from the other human beings, and this expectation is universal. So when the other person lives with this expectation, according to this expectation, we say that the person is living with a humane conduct, and it can be called in that sense universal human conduct. All the other 3 orders, they exhibit definite conduct naturally. In human beings, definite conduct is based on education sanskar, shiksha sanskar. Okay, if it needs to be inculcated. It is not existing in a human being by birth. The expectation that the others will do will be with human conduct, that expectation is there, but how I will be able to live with human conduct, that ability is not there. So that is what is causing all the conflict in the families, as well as in institutions, as well as generally in society. We are very clearly able to see the wrongs which the other human beings are doing. Okay, but what is the right human conduct? Even we find it difficult to define. So what will try to do is, we'll try to touch upon today what is that human conduct. I believe that in one more session this will be covered in more detail, but this is how progressively we will be covering. So the role of education sanskar, shiksha sanskar, is to facilitate the development of competence to live with human conduct, to exhibit this human conduct, so that in my actions, in my behavior with the other human beings and with the rest of the nature, I am living with human conduct. This is the ability which as teachers, as faculty members, as parents, we have to develop in our students, in our children. Okay, right now in education, the missing link is that we are developing the skills part of our students. Like every child, if we see from birth, from the age of 3, we normally put a child to school, and for the next 20 years, child is going to an educational institution. It could be school or college. All these 20 years, the focus is on the skills part. Okay, that ability to live with human conduct, that part is missing. That is why we are seeing so many problems in society and in nature. I mean, to put a few examples, so that this aspect is highlighted very clearly to us. We have medical colleges where we make good doctors and surgeons, but when some of our family members, they fall sick and we have to go to a doctor or to a hospital, and the doctor or hospital says that there is an expensive test to be done, or the patient needs to be admitted urgently, do we immediately trust the doctor or the hospital? So many times I have seen, you also are living your own lives, and these issues confront all of us on a day-to-day basis. There is always a fear that maybe the doctor or the hospital is trying to exploit us, trying to make money from us, whether we need this expensive test or whether we need this expensive admission to the hospital or expensive surgery, whether we really need it or not. we are not sure. Okay, so here again, we are not sure. We are sure about the skills part of the doctor. His ability to treat us, that is not in doubt. Whether the doctor is coming out with a human conduct or not, that is what is in doubt. Whether the doctor is trying to exploit us or not, that we are not sure of. So we have made good doctors, we have made good engineers, we have made good lawyers, but whether they will eventually exploit their clients, exploit the people who need their services, or will be displaying or will be living with human conduct, that link is missing in the education part. So skills part is focused, the nishchit acharan, the manviyata part, that is missing in education. So how we are going to do it is in education. We'll see in the coming slides. Is there a need for such education, Sanskar? Of course, the answer is yes. Are we able to achieve it or provide it? Unfortunately, no. Who is responsible for providing it? You and us, the parents, the teachers. And how? We do not know. If we knew, we would have done it like for thousands of years. We know that there is a manviya acharan, nishchit acharan, a definite human conduct which we need in human beings. How to provide it? We do not know. So we'll try to see in the next 15-20 minutes, whatever is remaining part of this session now, and then we'll take questions. First, we'll just see what is Manvita Purna Acharan based on the coexistential philosophy. So we are saying here, I'll just spend 2 minutes here. One of my colleagues, he will be probably covering it later in this FDP in some other session in more detail. The Manviya Acharan has 3 elements. It is based on values, policy, and character. So as per coexistential philosophy, there are 30 values which are listed here. So we have to be clear about values, and we have to be clear about the role of these values in my living. Okay, this part is so far missing in education. Then we have to be clear about the policy part. As per coexistential philosophy, there are 3 policies which all families and all countries and all institutions have to focus on: Arthniti, Rajyaniti, and Dharmniti. So I'm not going to cover in detail, but Tan Man Dhan, this is what is everything that exists around us. So that we have to focus on. Iska sadupyog ho, iski suraksha ho, और इसका उत्पादन हो. So right now most of the focus is on the dhan part in our policies. The dhan part is the focus point. I'm highlighting it here. The tan and man part is many times exploited. I have worked in corporate world for more than 15 years, and I have seen very clearly that the main focus in corporate world, and then that is the aspirations most of us have for ourselves as far as for our children also. So while that dhan part looks like it is getting fulfilled, at the man level there is a lot of stress and tension, and at the tan level also I felt like it is getting exploited. Most of us have back pains, neck pains, and the body is exploited so that we can make more money. It is very, very clearly visible. So the society's focus at this point of time, unfortunately, is only on the dhan part. And here what we are saying is that the tan, man, dhan, they have to be looked at collectively, and all of them are important. And in the policies, all these 3 have to be kept in mind. And then there is the next part, which is the character part. Swadhan, Swanari, Swapurush, Dayapurn, Karya Vyavhar. I'm just leaving it here. This part will be covered later, but we were talking about the human conduct, Manviya Acharan. I thought the session will be incomplete if I do not put it across to you. So just we have spent 2-3 minutes on this. We'll move on. How to achieve that? If we can spend 15-20 minutes on that and get a glimpse of how it can be done, because that is what we are all striving for. So all the background work we have done now, the foundation, the need, humans are the culprit. Okay, in the education, the skills part is getting covered, the human conduct part is not getting covered. We all have been students in our times also, and we know that this part is not getting covered then, and now our children are going to school and colleges. We realize that now also this is not getting covered. So here we'll just try to see how we can handle that. So yesterday when Pradeep ji was taking the afternoon session, he gave a proposal that human being is not only body, human being is equal to body plus self. So the Manviya Acharan can be achieved only with a clear understanding that human being is a coexistence of body and self. Okay, this is something which we will see now in slight detail. So I have made in this slide two boxes. One box I am saying body, one box I am saying self. When we are saying human being is body and self, so let us try to see in the shape of a block diagram, what are we saying? So body and self combined is the human being. Now from body, what we do actions and observations. We observe what is happening around us, and then we do actions with the external world. So this is what we are doing with the body. What are the things, activities which are happening in self? We have thoughts in self, we have knowledge or samajh in self, and then in a way on top of it we are saying that this self is actually I. मैं क्या हूं? मैं self ही हूं, मेरा शरीर मैं नहीं हूं, है ना? I am owner of my body. So who is the owner? Owner is the self. So in the self, somewhere on the top we are saying मैं हूं, and then मेरे विचार हैं, मेरी समझ है, and मेरे actions and observations है. These things also will be covered in detail in the coming sessions in the next 3 days. But again, you know, the humane conduct, the Manviya Acharan, we cannot cover without touching upon these things. So gradually we'll build our understanding as we go along in this FDP. We'll develop our understanding of human being is equal to body and self, body plus self. This concept, this acceptance, unless I am able to accept it, unless I am able to feel it, unless I am able to verify it within myself, as we said, everything is a proposal. So I am a combination of body and self. All 400 of you who are participating in this FDP, you are combination of body and self. This you have to verify in yourself. Okay, our friends in the coming sessions, they will help in that verification. But very easily we can see that if I get hurt, if I fall down, if I break my arm, or if I am bleeding, then I feel bad. That is one part, that I feel bad because my body is feeling bad. But then we have instances when I feel humiliated, when I feel ignored, when I feel insulted, then also I feel bad. All of you also must have gone through those phases in day-to-day life. So when I fall down and break my arm, I am feeling bad because my body is feeling bad. But when somebody ignores me, I am feeling bad. Why I am feeling bad at that time? There is nothing happened to the body. So at that time, the self has felt bad. Okay, so this concept of body and self, gradually we have to clearly see it in ourselves, that yes, I am not only body, I am a combination of body and self. So what we are saying here is this self we have not understood so far clearly. We have not understood. Our students and children at home have also not understood. If I ask you point blank, all of you, how many times we have been able to talk to our children, even at home, so clearly about body and self? I am very much sure that many of you, or probably all of you, have not done that, have not been able to do that, because nobody drew our attention to this side. Okay, so for the first time when my attention was drawn to this side, and I felt very curious. I felt very excited that yes, this is the missing link in life. So human beings are a combination of body and self. Thoughts and knowledge are part of self. So now what happens? Let's proceed further. We'll link it to the Manviya Acharan. So the doing part is at the level of the body. Okay, at the level of the body is actions and observations, and this is where the doing part is happening. Thoughts part, here the thinking, the policy part. You remember this slide? The policy and this character, this is the doing part. Character is the doing part, policy is the thinking part, the thinking process behind the doing, and then the values or the samaj or the knowledge is behind the thinking. So thinking happens here. Most of our living is happening only at the thoughts and doing level. Now what we are saying here is values and wisdom are at the top. Okay, samaj, knowledge, understanding, this is happening here. Our understanding of wisdom, understanding of values, our understanding of wisdom, this is belonging to this box. And when all these three are activated and all these three are in harmony, then I am feeling happiness, I am feeling peace, I am feeling satisfaction here. So if I am living only at the bottom two boxes, this level of thoughts and level of actions and observations, the doing part and the thinking part, then the understanding part, the knowledge part is missing, and then in the end I do not feel happy. I feel that something is missing in life. I feel some incompleteness, some adhurapan, some emptiness, some khalipan. We feel in spite of all the status, all the money and all the appreciations that we get from outside, somewhere inside we feel that something is lacking because we have not understood this self. Okay, so in self, I am reiterating again, we have thoughts, we have the knowledge part, and we have the actual I. So what is really happening in day-to-day life is presently our thoughts are focused outward towards body and external world. So this thoughts and actions and then the external world. This is our most or almost 100% of our day-to-day life. Okay, the upper side, we are not connected to ourselves. I am not connected to my knowledge, my understanding. I am not able to evaluate, myself, and then I am disconnected with I. So that I is getting, ignored. That is where the feeling of emptiness, hollowness, adhurapan, khalipan, all that is coming there. So what we are proposing here is in this FDP and in this session, I'm making a small sort of initial few points here, that we are a combination of body and self. Thoughts are in the body, samaj is in the body, and actually I is also self. So living only at the level of thoughts and actions is incomplete living, and living with knowledge needs to fulfillment. When I know myself in this manner, and then I understand that, oh, my wife is also like this, then my children are also like this, my students are also like this, my colleagues, friends, everyone is like this. This is the universal design of human being. So the way I was feeling emptiness in myself, because of which I am making, due to that lack of knowledge, I am making some mistakes. The others with whom I am living, they are also, because of this lack of understanding and knowledge, they are also making mistakes. And nobody knows this complete block diagram of ourselves. We are all coming from, most of us are from engineering background. So, like we understand block diagram. So I think that by this diagram, some things should have become clear, and my colleagues will take it further in the further sessions. So now we are sort of concluding this session, only 5 minutes, 10 minutes more. So what we are saying, summarizing here is definite conduct is, now we are reiterating here. Definite human conduct for human beings does not mean robotic actions, does not mean uniform or mechanical actions. There will be differences in the doing part and the thinking part, but the value domain, the knowledge part, that is universal. I mean, the way we have looked at 4 orders, the way we will look at values in the coming sessions, the way we have identified the definite human conduct or the Manviya Acharan in this session and in detail in further sessions, others, including our children, our students, will also understand that in a similar manner. Only thing is, unfortunately, so far, it was not presented to us and to them so logically, so clearly so far. Okay, so once we understand it clearly and we realize that by understanding it, there is a change in me, I feel a change in me, I realize what is right and wrong, and I want to live in a right manner, then that trust develops that with others also the same thing will happen. Okay, so the doing part, as we are saying, there will be differences. For example, I like to wear, let's say, some kind of a dress, and my friend wants to wear a different kind of a dress. So uniformity does not mean that at doing level all of us will be same. Okay, I will wear whatever I want to wear, my friend will wear whatever they want to wear. If me and my family eat at some place, I will eat what I like to eat and my child will eat what he or she likes to eat. It does not mean that all of us have to do the same thing. If I am eating sambar rice, my child will also eat sambar rice, the whole world will eat sambar rice. No, at doing level, there will be differences. The tastes will be differences. We all like different colors. Somebody likes brown color, somebody likes blue color. So we will wear clothes, we will have paints on our walls according to the color we like. All those differences will be there. Policies also will be different, but they will be driven by values, by knowledge and understanding. So once the basic source is values, knowledge and understanding, then differences in thoughts and differences in actions, they are taken as diversity. We all like diversity. We do not like monotony. Okay, but diversity does not mean that we only look at diversity and forget about the universality part of the human being. So in human beings, there is a common universal part and then there is a diversity part. So diversity part, let there be diversity. In the universal part, in the common part, that part, there has to be universality. That will come only with knowledge. Okay, so where have we gone wrong? We have gone wrong due to wrong assumptions. There are many wrong assumptions. You know, yesterday Pradeep ji was also mentioning about them. I will repeat one wrong assumption. This is the most important one. Pradeep ji also mentioned it, and many of my colleagues in the coming sessions will also mention it. If there is one takeaway which all of us can take from this workshop, this full 5 days FDP, that is the biggest wrong assumption is we are only body. Human being is body and the brain derives that body. So human being is not only brain and body, human being is brain and body driven by self. Okay, so that self understanding, self exploration, that is required. So that incomplete understanding, that we'll try to see how much we can address in this FDP. Human being is body plus self. The body needs suvidha, self needs sukh. In absence of this clarity, we mistakenly try to get sukh from suvidha. Okay, and we want maximum sukh. So we do not know the difference between sukh and suvidha. So we try to maximize suvidha because unknowingly we think from suvidha we will get sukh. So all this global warming, the root cause of this is mankind has not understood difference between sukh and suvidha. If I want maximum suvidha, nature will be exploited because all the suvidha will come from the material order only and from the plants order only. And then we will be sort of, knowingly, unknowingly, we will be exploiting nature. Global warming will increase. Although we want a good future for our children, we will living the earth in a very, very bad shape for our children. Okay, this is a crime which all of us are collectively committing, and the root cause of that is सुख और सुविधा का difference नहीं मालूम है. So conclusion, it is only the human beings who can study themselves and understand themselves, and everything else we do. This we covered in the beginning also. I am highlighting in the conclusion. मानव ही अस्तित्व में ऐसी इकाई है जो स्वयं का भी अध्ययन कर सकता है और संपूर्ण का भी अध्ययन कर सकता है. This is a huge potential which the mankind has. Animals do not have. Human beings are different than animal. Please do not think man is a social animal. Man is not an animal. Man is a different order in itself. That is what we have tried to highlight in this session. But human beings have not yet channelized their potential to understand everything. They can understand, but they have the potential, but we have not yet channelized their potential. मानव ने समझने का पोटेंशियल तो है, लेकिन अभी तक मानव समझा नहीं है, इसलिए गलतियां कर रहा है. सबसे बड़ा भ्रम स्वयं को शरीर मानकर जीना है. To assume that I am only body, this is the biggest assumption. Although we belong to the knowledge order, we have seen 4 orders and humans we put in the knowledge orders. Humans have so far not focused on knowledge. Not that we did not want to focus, but somehow our attention was not drawn to this side in a very logical and clear manner. So, the way this FDP is going, the way these sessions are going, I think all of you will be able to see that we can talk about these things very, very logically. The way we use presentations, the way we use whiteboards in our classrooms, in a similar manner, in a logical explanation, we can talk about body and self. Please use the next 3 days also and today's second half to see that how logically we can develop our understanding. Then we will be able to realize our full potential and actually living in the knowledge order. So being part of the knowledge order, humans will be able to live with definite human conduct, manviya acharan, only with knowledge. If we do not have knowledge, then agyanvash, due to that lack of knowledge, because of misunderstanding, we think that human beings and animals are similar, or there are a lot of similarities. If there are some differences, we are not very clear about it. Everything becomes hodgepodge. Shiksha Sanskar has to play a major role here. That is why this FDP is going on. All of you being academicians, we do not have to make only skilled engineers or skilled doctors. Those engineers and doctors should be able to live with the humane conduct also. Otherwise, all these qualified people will go out and start exploiting other human beings and nature, and we will be doing grave injustice to our children and future generations. In the end, I express my gratitude to Shri A. Nagaraj. He is the propounder of coexistential philosophy, which in Hindi is known as Sah Astitwad or Madhyastha Darshan. So this whole presentation and almost all the sessions in this workshop, they are based on Madhyastha Darshan, Sah Astitwad, coexistential philosophy. If all of us, me and my colleagues and the organizers, are able to sort of make you think that yes, these sessions have a logical foundation and you want to understand it more, and that it starts your internal journey for self-reflection and self-exploration, I think then only we can call ourselves successful. So all the best to all of you. Thank you very much, Yogesh ji.